Chip said, my name is Ed Valencia. I'm Director of Safety and Training for LPR Construction out of Loveland, Colorado. I've been with LPR for almost over 30 years now. Been in the steel erection business. So we've been doing 100% tie-offs since 1992, over 6 foot, and we've had over 60 rescues in our company. And so, and still today, we're probably still trying to figure things out because there's a situation, it's different every time you're out there, it seems like. But we got the basics down. This is the Marlins ballpark we're doing right now. So there's a lot of planning for the rescue on that project. How many in here have a rescue plan on their projects? 2, 3, 4? Yeah, it's one of those things that we don't, I think we put all this stuff in there, we tie all our iron workers off, but we don't really look far enough into it and put the full plan in place. What I'm going to show here is some stuff about why we should be having a rescue plan, from regulation to just the right thing to do and have it in place, to a video that we did. Looking out there for the last 10, 12 years, I've looked for videos for our industry, and there just wasn't any out there. So we made our own. You know, we start doing some videos of our own and for training, and we made our own. It's about 15 minutes. I also have a short clip video on how to hook this pole up and hook your tie-off stuff up to hook them up to a crane and bring them down. Probably one of the easier for your higher-end rescue. That's how that one will work. Like I just said, we use all the right tools to tie them off. You know, we use the girder grips, the beamers, beam straps. But if they're hanging there, how are you going to get them up or down? These are some of the people that we've had fall in the years, plus 20 more, plus our subcontractor, our decking company, has had probably a half dozen fall on our systems, and everybody went back to work. You know, so it's real, stuff works. Our longest rescue is Todd Beaumont. It was 11 minutes. He had a seizure up on a multi-story building that we had, and we got him down 11 minutes with a crane and had the fire department come on in and take care of him. OSHA requires you, under 502 subpart M, employers shall provide for prompt rescue of employees in the event of a fall, or shall assure that the employees are able to rescue themselves. 90% of our falls have been rescued pretty much by ladders. And probably, you know, there's probably a half dozen of those guys in there that, you know, rescued themselves. As soon as you fall, they crawl up like a cat on a wall. You know, they just scares the crap out of them. They're up there pretty quick. They're going to get up. One of my boys fell on a hangar out in Virginia, and he would have fell 54 feet, but he was tied off, and he kind of rescued himself. He pulled himself back up on a truss and came back up to the top. So I was really glad we had fall protection, and you know, it really paid off. I asked him, I said, you know, that really scared the crap out of you? You know, and he was like, oh no, just another day hanging iron. You know, like, yeah, sure. You went to Walmart and changed your underwear, you know. So anyway, there's part of the standard. In the beginning of the standard also requires employee emergency action plans. So this is kind of the complete system. This is not only just your fall protection rescue, but your whole evacuation plan on your projects. So, and there's steps that you have to take. You have to have the elements, the alarm system, the evacuation maps, and planning to have it in place. The employer shall review with each employee upon initial assignment those parts of the plan which the employee must know to protect the employee in event of emergency. We have this in our new hire orientation, so that we'll show this video on the new hire orientation so they get an idea what to look for. And also, when we start a project, we have the evacuation plans in our site safety books, and to where we have a section in there. Then we go over that with all the employees that come onto that project to exactly know exactly where they're going to go for an evacuation. You know, and we've had them like on the Memphis arena where we had the GC on that one. They had a couple of concrete guys fall, and a wall fell over and they fell. So we ended up got all our people together, and all the subs got all their people in their own groups. And we held everybody there because it's not only just to get a count on your people in evacuation, but it's also for media. You know, you don't want your people running out of the streets, you know, and saying, you know, they did this and they did that, you know, when really they don't know the facts. So you want to keep them all corralled and have a safety meeting with them and keep them there to let them know that everything's going to be all right and gets going. Training, 503, employer shall provide the training program for each employee who might be exposed to fall hazards. You know, this isn't the correct training. This was a contractor, their brochure. And so the person here is not wearing leg straps. They're using a cheater on the bottom where the hook's not compatible for that hook. And using side D-ring, should be using the back D-ring for fall arrest. That person was to fall, you know, it'd snap his back. So, you know, you need to have the training, and with that was the rescue. Pre-planning, you know, plan your work, then work your plan. You know, we put this in place, and we got to have everything with the rescue all planned in there too. You know, how are we going to get up to these type heights and these angles, and is there obstacles in the way of the, you know, if you're going to bring a fire truck in or an aerial lift or whatever to bring these people down, you know. So got to have the whole plan in place and roads cleared out, ready to go. When we start bidding on work, we do these fall protection plans on our jobs, and then when we put this in place, we have to make sure that we go out to the job site and this thing is hooked up just like we have the plan here. So now we're going to go back and we're going to set up, okay, we got the beam safe systems up top here, you know, and that's like a 40-foot depth truss or 30-foot or whatever. You know, how are we going to get somebody down? They're going to fall, you know, 12 feet or so. So how are we going to get them down from there? If they fall in that bottom one, they're going to be hanging, you know, 200 foot in the air. You know, how are we going to get them up from there or down? So you have to have the whole written plan in place, and you have to train the employees. You know, because we leave the job sites. I was just on the Marlins ballpark a week ago, and we pulled our safety guy off site, and I asked the superintendent, you know, we're kind of looking up there, and I said, you know, these guys over here, how will you get them down? And then he started mumbling around, and he really didn't, he forgot what the plan was, so we had to go back and do the training. So it's a good tool is to, when I walk around projects, is I ask, you know, the green hat on the project, you know, how are you going to get, if that person falls, how are you going to get them down? And he needs to say, I got a ladder right here, I got an aerial lift right here, I'm supposed to call my foreman, he's got the radio to call the office and get a system going here. So everybody on the whole project needs to know that. Engineering controls, know your systems. You know, we have, you know, what length can they be and not to exceed, you know, your fall protection systems. Because if you have too long of a cable and they fall, that whole cable is going to come down, you know, to your V down here, and they could be dropping 20 feet. You know, this pole to hook them up, you know, is not 20 foot long, and so you're not going to be able to hook them up, and they're going to be hanging out there. So you need to shorten your posts together so that they don't fall as far. You know, reduce those fall hazards. How many people can use a system, you know? And if you have 2 people fall, are you going to be able to rescue both of them? Are you going to be able to put another person in that area to be able to tie them off? You never use the system, and that's what we show in the video, is you never use the system that's got a fallen person on it. So you have to have another system. They're either going to use a beamer or what have you to get over to their cable system. Workers in emergency, there's an emergency response. Workers in emergency response personnel must be trained to recognize the risks in suspension trauma. Rescue personnel must make certain the harness user is conscious at all times. Time in suspension should be limited to under 5 minutes. You know, after that, you know, it starts tightening up on your, and I'll show a thing under your main artery in your leg, and it's a bad thing. Tie-off liners should be anchored as high as tight as work permits. And why is that? Because if they're tied off as high, they're not going to hit as hard, and they're not going to get injured as easy. And it's going to be a lot easier to rescue them. Rescuers should be trained that victims who are suspended vertically before rescue are potentially in fatal situation. You know, they need to take that so that they're going to jump on it right away and get that person down immediately. Suspension trauma. The technical term is orthostatic intolerance. It may be defined as the development of symptoms such as lightheadedness, poor concentration, fatigue, nausea, dizziness, headache, sweating, weakness, occasionally fainting during upright standing. Here's what I was talking about a minute ago, the orthostatic intolerance. This vein right here, that artery right there, when they fall, the best habit to do is teach people to get their legs up. You know, if they're hanging straight down, it's going to pinch that artery, and it's going to stop that the blood from going. It's called venous pooling. And so then when you bring them down, and they've been up there for 10, 15 minutes, and you bring them down and they unhook that the harness from their legs, it shoots that blood up, and you give them a stroke or a heart attack, or it'll kill them. So you don't want to do that. You want to get them down within that 5 minutes. Okay, what if they do fall? Here's the rescue plan. You know, we put plans on all these different projects. You know, you have your job addresses, you have your alleys where you're going to be running through and to the street, how you're going to get ambulances in or fire trucks with ladders, your evacuation hold-up spot assembly areas to get all your people in one spot. Pretty simple. You can get these drawings off the job site, and then you just start doing your draw-ups on them and put them in the book, put them on the wall in your trailers, put them out in your tool print shacks. Here's a video that we made. I think I'm open to letting anybody really have this for their own training. It's just a matter, but it's made for LPR.
This happened on your project. Would you know what to do? Hi, my name is Travis Weber. I'm a safety and training manager for LPR Construction. And in this video, we're going to cover emergency action steps for an assisted rescue, the different types of situations you may encounter during an assisted rescue, the different types of equipment you can use for an assisted rescue, and the hazards of a rescue. How about we start by going through our emergency action steps? In any rescue situation, the first step will be the initiation of your emergency action plan. A, assess the fall situation. C, check the person for consciousness or serious injury. E, emergency services notified. S, safest, quickest way to perform the rescue. The first step in your emergency action steps is the A in ACEs. Assess the situation.
Oh! Hey guys, we got a guy in the hole!
What am I going to do? How are we going to get him down? To properly assess a rescue situation, you should first determine the quickest and safest possible way to gain access to the fallen worker. Remember, you cannot use a loaded safety system for your own fall protection to access a fallen employee. Never put yourself in danger. Be sure to check outside environmental hazards that may have caused the worker to fall, such as freely swinging steel, slick walking surfaces, wind, structural instability, or overhead hazards.
That's not our project.
The second part of your emergency action steps is the C in ACEs. This stands for check the person for consciousness or serious injury. To check a person for consciousness, try to get a response from them by yelling their name and asking if they are okay. Ricky, you all right, man? You hear me? While While you're trying to get their attention, scan their body for any signs of serious injury. Whether the person is conscious or not will determine how you will proceed with the rescue. If the person is unconscious, you'll proceed to the E and ACEs, which is to have somebody contact emergency services.
Call 911.
If the person is conscious, ask them questions in regards to their injuries. If the person is conscious and not severely injured, then proceed to the S and ACEs, which is to figure out the safest and quickest way to get the person down. The next part of your emergency action step is the E and ACEs. This stands for emergency services. If at any point during the rescue you determine that the worker is unconscious or seriously injured, you need to immediately have someone contact the emergency services.
Hey, Rick. Rick, can you hear me? Oh, guys, he looks pretty badly hurt. Hey, have somebody call 911.
If a supervisor is not in the immediate vicinity, radio communication should be used to inform the supervisor of the situation. Remember to include the location of the fallen employee.
Hey, Jake, we got a guy in the hole over here on G2, second floor. He looks pretty badly beat up. Think we're gonna need some medical attention. Better call 911.
The next part of your emergency action step is the S and ACEs. It stands for the safest and quickest way to perform the rescue. Some of the things to look for are the following. Can the person perform self-rescue and safely access the walking working surface? Or will you need a mechanical advantage such as a ladder to get them down? Can you hook them up to a crane and lower them in a controlled manner to the safest walking working surface? Or maybe it's picking them up in an aerial lift, or utilizing a controlled descent or retrieval system. All right, we've covered our emergency action steps. Now let's go ahead and cover some different rescue scenarios where you might need to use those. In any fall rescue emergency, one of the major considerations should be how the rescue will be performed. The good thing, however, is that your options should be known well in advance, as every day the topic of rescue situations should be brought up in the morning pre-task meeting.
Overhead loads, pinch points, use taglines. Let's go into an overhead rescue situation where we're working at heights.
You know, every project's got different fall rescue situations. Some of those fall rescue situations may involve falls from clear span structures, multi-story buildings. There can be falls in covered structures with no overhead access, or rescuing an unconscious or a severely injured person.
Oh, man. How are we gonna get him down?
Some questions you need to ask yourself when you're performing a clear span rescue is how are you going to gain access to the fallen employee? Could be in the form of a ladder, possibly a JLG, or you might not have those options available. What kind of equipment are you going to have available to perform the rescue? Could be a mechanical advantage, possibly a crane, may even be a high-angle rope system. The other question you need to ask yourself, if you don't have those available, are you going to go ahead and use emergency medical services to go ahead and perform the rescue for you? There are several challenges that you may face when performing multi-story rescues. First, performing rescues from tall buildings will limit your options on which equipment may be used to perform the rescue. In most cases, a ladder extended from the last deck floor can be used to get the person down. However, in some cases, the nearest deck floor will be too far away to use a ladder, and rescuers will have to either use a crane or a controlled descent system. In addition, falls at the perimeters of multi-story buildings can create difficult rescue situations. Getting the person down will essentially work the same way, but the rescuers will have the added issues of getting the person to the interior of the building.
Y'all awake?
On covered structures with no overhead access, some challenges that the rescuer may encounter are: cranes will not be able to be used for the rescue, distances may be too high for the use of a boom lift or a ladder, areas of access to fallen employees may be limited, overhead anchorages may not be available, and a horizontal anchorage may need to be used. If the rescuer must use a controlled descent or retrieval system to perform the rescue, it shall be used by a qualified person or under the direct supervision of a qualified person.
What am I gonna do? How are we gonna get him down?
One of the most difficult rescue situations that a responder may encounter is if the worker is severely injured and or unconscious. Remember, it is very important to stay calm.
All right, man, just calm down. Remember your ACES training.
If at any point during the rescue you determine that the worker is unconscious or seriously injured, or you are unable to safely perform the rescue, then emergency personnel shall be contacted to perform and assist in the rescue situation.
Hey, Rick. Rick, can you hear me? Hey, Jake, he's unconscious. Someone call 911.
At this point, we've talked about the various emergency action steps that you should take when you're entering a rescue operation, and we've also discussed the various rescue situations that you may encounter. Another thing that you should be aware of are the different types of rescue equipment that you might use during a rescue. Whenever possible, the rescuer should make use of a mechanical advantage. For starters, a ladder is a simple example of a basic mechanical advantage that can be employed easily and may often be the best choice. If using a ladder is not viable, the rescuer may need to consider other options. It could be that a scissor lift or aerial lift may be the right tool for the job. You may find that utilizing a crane presents the best opportunity to rescue the fallen person in a safe and timely manner. However, the use of a crane should be one of your last resorts, as it can introduce new hazards to the rescue operation. Additionally, those involved in the rescue need to be familiar with the various pieces of equipment necessary. Lastly, you may find that none of the previously mentioned equipment will satisfy your goal of rescuing a fallen person in the safest and quickest manner possible. In such cases, it may be necessary to perform a rescue operation by making use of a retrieval system. It's important to note that there are several different types of retrieval systems available, all with different strengths and weaknesses. Choosing the right one depends on the situation, as well as with the rescuer's familiarity with the equipment. Additionally, extra training and certification with the various types of retrieval systems may be required. All right, so far we've covered your emergency action steps. We've talked about the different rescue situations you may encounter and the different types of equipment that you can use to perform those rescues. Now we need to talk about the hazards that can be involved in performing the rescue. Rescuing employees from a fall arrest system is inherently a hazardous situation, and your job as a responder is to identify those hazards before you attempt to perform the rescue. First of all, before attempting to access the area that an employee has fallen, be sure to check your surroundings. You want to make sure that an external hazard did not cause the person you are rescuing to fall, which in turn could make you fall also. Take a second to absorb your surroundings and assess the situation before attempting to gain access to the person. Things to look for are swinging steel, slippery walking working surfaces. Is the structure stable? Is it very windy? I know we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. Never tie off to a loaded system. These systems may have been damaged during the fall and may not be safe for you to tie off to. Another possible hazard is employees performing rescues with equipment that they have not been trained to use. If you are unfamiliar with any of the equipment that is needed to perform the rescue, then be sure to get a qualified person to assist you in the rescue. Ricky, I heard you took a fall today, man. Everything all right? Feeling okay?
Yeah, everything's all right. I'm just glad that fall protection stuff works.
Well, that's a prime example of why we maintain 100% tie-off. We'll go ahead and just check you out, make sure everything's okay, all right?
All right.
If you're checking an employee who took a fall, there's several things you should keep in mind. Check the employee for any obvious signs of shock. This may include pale white skin or altered levels of consciousness. Check the employee for any signs of an obvious injury. A good indication of an injury could include signs of blood. Have the employee do a motion test to check for any signs of discomfort. Signs of discomfort may also be a good indication of a possible injury. If at any time the employee shows signs of an injury, no matter how minor in severity, it's recommended that the employee be escorted to the designated medical facility for further examination.
All right, looks like everything's good, Ricky. I think for today, just to play it safe, we're going to go ahead and keep you on the ground, and that way I can evaluate you throughout the day.
All right. Yeah, I feel all right. My ribs hurt a little bit, but I think I'll be okay.
All right, it might just be minor, but we're going to take you to the clinic. We'll get you evaluated, make sure everything's okay.
All right.
After a fall has occurred on a fall protection system, it is imperative that the system be immediately removed from service until it has been thoroughly inspected by a qualified person. This includes the cable system, any temporary anchorage systems, and the harness that was worn during the fall. The qualified person shall inspect the anchorage or the cable system from end to end. During the inspection, the system needs to be checked for any signs of damage. If the inspection reveals any signs of damage, the system shall be removed from service and replaced. Our line of work is a dangerous line of work and accidents can occur. We need to do our part to have an emergency action plan in place and be ready to respond in an emergency situation. Need to remember, assess the fall situation, check the person for consciousness or serious injury, emergency services notified, safest, easiest way to perform the rescue. Your job as a responder is also to complete the response in the safest manner possible and prevent further injury to the employee being rescued, and also yourself. So remember, with our plan in place, time is of the essence, and if we play our cards right, we can win with a hand of aces.
I have one more video here. It's going to show this this system here again using the crane, and it's about a 3-minute deal. And I put the timer up there. Now you have to look at this as we've already got this thing all set up, and so I think the rescue is done like in, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. So it's going to take you a lot longer to think, you know, what it's going to take to get all your system, if it's not ready, out of the trailers or whatever, if it's by the crane, you know, to get it all up in the air. So be thinking of those things. This system, I'm going to have Jack come up here in a few minutes and have him show how this pole works and the system works. And you know, I think all our projects should probably have one of these systems on them. We're buying them to get them all set up for a kit. Really, he should have took that hook and hooked it back into the choker for a second safety. So there you got a minute and 49 seconds. So really, and that's with us practicing with it, and you really need to go out. You can turn those lights up now. You really need to go out and practice with all your people this type of stuff, because when we first started doing this, it was like, first time it was like 5 minutes just to do the practice run with us, kind of ready with it, So it does take a lot longer to figure it out. Yep. Jack, you want to come on up? Jack Modine with Preferred Safety. He sells us all this stuff, but I'm going to let him go over his ladder.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for letting me come in a little bit with it. This was a device that we put together some time ago. We used it in a couple of different industries. But what it is, we call it an HREA ladder, or a loop-over-loop ladder. And we can make these at any length that you might think that you need them. But the standard one that we stock is a 20-foot ladder. And what you do is it's all folded up and it's shoved inside this black canvas bag here with a Sherlock hook on it, which has the strong gate so you can tie it back to itself or hook it into the existing anchor point. It's got a Velcro bottom, so you can hang this right by a first aid kit or keep it in another rescue kit. Grab it and run out to the fall site, hook it off to the anchor point, tear the Velcro bag open, and out drops this 20-foot ladder that just drops right down in front of the person. Now, it does one of a couple of things. The first thing it does is that if you've ever been in a fall and you're tied on your back, you're hanging at an angle, and you have nothing to grab onto. You're in a somewhat helpless situation. Just to give somebody an opportunity, something to grab onto and give a death hold to, makes somebody feel a little bit better. That's the first thing to do, because they feel like they've got something. Okay, now that they got that going, these loop over loops, we put some web stiffeners in there, these little yellow pieces of web in there, and what that does, it holds that loop open for you. So the second thing this ladder does is it allows the person to get their foot into the ladder so they can stand up and take that weight off of that femoral artery that we're talking about. That's the second thing that's really kind of nice about it. The third thing that it does is that if the person's coordinated enough, not hurt, strong enough, they can actually start to self-climb this ladder, at their pace. If they fall, they're still tied off, but they can have that opportunity if they want to do it.
There was a day I could do that, but it's not today.
Some can, some can't. But if nothing else, the first two things are really important for the guy that fell. Either the femoral artery issue or just something to hang on to. So, it's an inexpensive way. There's other systems out there that you can snap onto or hook onto your harnesses that have a left side and a right side of a strap, and you unsnap them or open them up, and you can hook them together and drop them down, and it's like they call them suspension trauma straps, that you can stand in those things, which pulls the harness down away from your femoral artery. But I'm buying one for every guy on my crew. They may cost $18 to $20 or more a piece per man, where this takes care of an entire job site or floor of a job site, depending on how big that job is.
This is real handy too. If you had two people fall, you can start rescuing the first person and drop that down to the second person so they can get that pressure off their legs.
So that's called an HREA. The second device that you saw in the video quite a bit was this telescoping pole and carabiner strap combination. The idea of this is it has a clip on top that you open up, and when you put pressure on the clip itself, it automatically closes and locks, and that's how you're clipping it into that guy's back D-ring. When you got it hooked in, it has a rubber gasket washer system on the bottom of the clip that goes into the top of a hole in the pole, and that's what holds it on there, so that when you tip the pole upside down, it's not going to fall off. Once you got it clipped in, you can pull the pole away and get rid of it. It has an adjustable buckle on the strap here. It's got a Velcro keeper, and it's got an adjustable D-ring on here so that I can stretch this thing out to different lengths if I have to go down farther or not from where And what Ed was showing was he took this strap off. In this case, I can actually hook this onto a block and tackle is what I'm showing you. And I can stretch this out to extend my block and tackle if it's not long enough to reach down. I put my block and tackle into here, still reach down and get the guy, and then still start to bring him up. The idea in rescue, well, there's different philosophies in rescue. One of them is that let gravity be your friend and take people down. But in some cases, if it's 200 or 300 feet, like you're seeing in some of the pictures here, that's a long ways down, and we may have to bring them back up. And there are some other mechanical winch type devices that are 6-to-1 advantages and other things that are on the market that could also be a good assist in that. But in this case, what we're trying to do with a short block and tackle like this one over here is we're not trying to necessarily go down 100 feet or bring them up 100 feet. All we're trying to do is bring them up 2 or 3 feet, maybe not even that much, but we can take the pressure off of their back beamer and off their landing. So once we get them into a different system on the crane or into some other type of a repelling device, which we also have some of those, we want to get the weight off the lanyard without having to take out a knife. Because I hear a lot of times, like, what are you going to do? Well, I'm just going to cut his lanyard. Well, in a panic situation, emergency situation, there's a lot of things that are yellow, like lanyard legs and rope and other things. And if you cut the wrong thing under load, you've got a really bad day happening. So knives in rescue, especially in the not everyday professional rescue type person, are a bad thing. So if we can get them up to unhook their hook, that's what the block and tackle idea is all about. It's just, and then you saw that in the crane, you raised him up a foot or so first to unhook the hook, then we took him back down. Let gravity do that. It's really, really hard to rescue people back up onto a piece of steel. It's very difficult to do. But it's fairly easy if you practice to bring them down to the ground.
Yeah, having a kit with these items, you know, and the backboard on a job site is really a must. And training all your supervision on how to use it all is real critical.
Yeah, when you first open up some of these kits, you lay out all the pieces, like, oh my gosh, this is pretty involved, pretty confusing. But once you pull it out and understand what each piece is and how each piece goes together and how they work, it's not quite as bad as what it all looks like. It's a little intimidating at first, but it's not. I do have a lot of people telling me, look, we're not high-angle rescue guys. We're not going to do this. And I agree, you're not high-angle rescue guys. And you can be. And in some job sites, some military sites, some mines, they require a full-time high-angle rescue guy to be on that job. But from day in and day out, that's not you guys. All we're trying to do is find easy, simple ways that make it safe for the guy who already fell and safe for the guys who are trying to help. I also hear all the time, look, we'll just get around, we'll just pull him up. That doesn't really work very well either. Sooner or later, somebody's going to push somebody else trying to grab onto a lanyard or pole, and now I'm going to have 2 guys down. Okay, or worse. So there's a few pieces of equipment. There's some other ideas too. These aren't the only ones. There's actually, that's even an old version of a block and tackle. What's nice about some of these new pieces of equipment is that, because people aren't used to using them, is that, and or if they're hurt or tired,
Watch yourself.
not a good anchor, is that in this particular one, huh?
We need to qualify.
That's right, darn right.
Didn't check my anchorage.
Hard to see from the back here, but I'll have this in my booth later. You come and look at it if you want to, but it has a jaw in here or a dog or 2, so that if I'm pulling on this thing and I let go of the rope, it automatically locks itself, so I'm not losing everything that I gained. The newer version of this that we just came out with, it actually has a one-way pulley in here. On all the pulleys are one-way pulleys, so that as I'm raising it up, the pulley is free wheel, which is really nice and helping me getting it up. But when I'm lowering a guy down, they lock in the back direction, so the rope is actually in friction across the top of the shiv to aid in the lowering down, so it's actually a greater advantage in bringing someone down. So there's some really neat new pieces of equipment that are coming out that are trying to make life a little bit less confusing and easier in this type of situation. Anyway, there's lots of pieces. There's a lot more that you can talk about equipment, but just know that they're out there, and there's more and more coming all the time. But any questions for me before I go back and give this to Ed? Come and see me over there if you want to see the equipment or have some questions. I'll be here all day. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Like I said, the kit really should have a backboard, you know, and I know we did a couple rescues up in the mountains where when the ambulances came and all that, you know, they really wanted us to make sure we had backboards and not just the regular Stokes basket, or, you know, to be able to put them up there and then get them out a lot easier, a lot quicker. You know, positive reinforcement. We've had contractors tell us, you know, what are you going to do with that person who fell? You know, you're going to write him up and all that type of stuff. And it's like, no, we're not going to write him up. He was tied off. He did what he was supposed to do. You know, and it's unfortunate that he slipped on the snow or whatever. You know, he tripped over something and fell. That's why we have the systems. So always be positive. You know, do your investigations. Find out why he fell. You know, and we go out and we do UAs on everybody after that too, just to make sure that they were thinking clearly. The root cause, find out your root causes so you can eliminate them from happening again. And review with the company. We take these investigations and review with our whole company in our safety meetings on all our projects and go over it so that it makes them aware of how they're going to, you know, where they're tying off and how they're tying off, and can we shorten our systems, can we get the systems up higher or whatever, you know, so we can make it a better rescue. You know, spread the news. Our thorough investigations, we do them, you know, we get all the measurements to all the cable systems and every piece of the system, you know, what they were doing at the time, how far they fell, you know, how do we rescue them, you know, how long did it take, you know, what did and didn't work, you know, what changes need to be made to your program. And we have quite a few of these, and we seem to get better at it. You know, how much weight, how heavy was the person with all his tools, you know, the length of the guy, where they fell exactly on your system, you know. So we have a testing facility that we do all our fall protection testing and do all our training for our apprentices and that type of thing. And we do a lot of rescue things out here with the fire departments. We do training for the fire department locally and with ABC. We do a lot of media type stuff. So pretty handy little tool. Employers' responsibility to protect their employees to the best of their ability. Pretty much that's all I have. You know, I just want to stress that, you know, going out of here, that you want to go back and check what rescue plans you have on your projects and to make sure we're going to rescue these whoever falls out there as fast as we can and the safest way we can, just to, you know, get them back home. So if you ever have any questions or need some help with a rescue plan or a fall protection plan or something like that, you know, we can give you some advice and all that, or help you out a little bit, you know, but we had no problem with that. So give me a call and help you out any way I can. Okay, that's all I got today. Thank you.